All right, how's everybody doing? Yep, we're all still here. What I'm showing you is a clock, I just want to. This has nothing to do with. Well, it kind of has something to do with what's going on in the skies, but overall, okay. So you have 12, 3, 6, 9. Okay, so this is your hour hand, or this is your hour hand. This is your minute hand. This is your second hand. This one goes around quick. This one not quite as quick. This one even slower yet. Okay, so the sky clock, these would be your 12 constellations, okay, around here. This one here, the minute hand, even though it's called a minute hand, right, and this is the hour hand, this one is your gaseous giants moving around the sun. Okay? These are your inner planets moving around the sun. The second hand that goes around and around and around faster than all of them, that's the time here on Earth. Okay? Relative to everything else that's going on. And the reason I bring this up is, I mentioned in another video, the Bible talks about, that 8th day. And tomorrow is the 8th. And we have a Saturn-Venus conjunction coming up. So, going back to the story with Esther, just change the names. That's all you got to do. It's just change the names. So, the Saturn-Venus, and I'm pretty sure this is where in the Bible, it talks about the serpent in the garden, the tree of knowledge. And I've said before, knowing good and evil, so to speak. Because we didn't know that when our heads got cut off. I told you what that was all about, right? It had to do with, and that was one loop that everybody saw concluded, right? Was when we went from Trump to Biden, and then back to Trump. So you had Trump, you had Biden. That's the story of Enki and Enlil taking over because he was older. Yada, whatever. Like I said, that's a story unto itself. But the war in Ukraine, right, started under Biden, is what they have you believe. And so that was one ending timeline, and then we looped back around and went back to Trump. Okay, so that was the end of that timeline. So now, even though I think the big timelines all ended, so to speak, about the time of the Super Bowl or shortly thereafter, it could have been the blood moon, because like I said, you had Abraham Lincoln at the gate, so to speak, and it hasn't been killed yet, right? So. And this is where prophecy is going to fail the church, so to speak. Because, there's people out there right now teaching the Bible to people that talk about, bringing on the beast system, the third temple. That's not going to happen. Now, it may play out in some weird way symbolically along the timeline, but that was a timeline that was done away with and covered up with the Knights of the Round Table, so to speak. So I'm not sure if that's even going to happen or not. A lot of the events, because again, the Bible is full of things that have already happened. That's why there's multiple rapture stories in the Bible, right? Because we went through loops. Each time we went from world to world to world, there was a rapture story, okay? And all three of them are in there. It is what it is. But what I want to say about the 8th day, yeah, we got that Saturn-Venus conjunction coming up. And I don't know if that becomes 0 point. I'm not real sure there. It is what it is. Like I've said all along, I just see stuff going along. and I pin it to a chart, so to speak, along a timeline, if you will, because that's what we're dealing with is timelines. Because you got to remember, okay, if you live in a world of no time, let's say, okay, because everything's backwards here. We have time here, we're probably not going to have time there. The script, the Bible speaks of eternity, right? So if you have something that just happens, right? There's no time there. You have to take what's left and break it down into the segments. And like I said, all these segments are broken down, fractalized into manageable pieces that can be absorbed by the system without causing it to completely crash. You know, everybody says, oh, they're just, and they, and it's both. They're doing everything they can, it seems like, to create a civil war, but that's only based on everybody's knowledge of what's really going on. But actually, in their position, they're doing everything they can to prevent civil war. It doesn't look like it. And this and this is why we'll probably never see anything happen to the people on the Epstein list, okay? Because yes, they are. That's the credits to the show. Those are the people responsible for the show that you see going on, okay? They're the ones that are responsible for what was done. So their penance, and it doesn't seem like one because of people's perceptions. Everybody thinks that, you know, these Hollywooders and politicians, that they have the life, right? They've got the money, the cars, the me. No, they are the prisoners running the prison. They are groomed from a young age to play that part. You and I have more freedom to do the things that we want to do than they do. Okay, so that's their penance, so to speak, is they don't have a life here. And this is why I say, you know, they want as much for this to end as we do. So, you know, that's just one aspect of it. And that goes back to, you know, consciousness, and again, they don't get to pick how things go in the future, so to speak. I'm gonna show you a little something. We're gonna say this is the sun, and here's all the planets sticking out from the sun, right? Okay. If you look, they call the sun for our solar system Sol, right? S-O-L. Throw a U in there. Your soul, who you are inside, comes from the sun. Okay? That's the star seed that got planted in the earth, or whatever planet you come from, and was created out of that. So here's the other big kicker. The Father is in heaven, yes, but if you think of a God as something that can create something out of nothing, that would be Mother Earth, the goddess, because she took the seed and turned it into that, right? You don't throw a seed up in the air and hope that it'll grow. You plant a seed in the ground, and it grows out of the ground, okay? So there's just that part of it. Your soul comes from here. And going back to this, okay, so if these are the constellations, these are the gaseous giants moving through the constellations, and these are the inner planets, Venus, Mars, Mercury, Earth, supposedly Earth, moving through, okay? So there's your wheel in the sky, so to speak. Now, if you look at what they want to tell us about history, you can track, in my opinion, because this is how I've done it, you can look at which gaseous giants pass through the constellation Taurus and when. and they're usually accompanied by an inner planet at the same time. Okay, so and I don't remember who passed through when. This is all stuff that I looked up a long time ago. Okay, so if you want some interesting homework or to look stuff up, to I don't know, call me out if you will. I don't know. I don't care. Just look at when the gaseous giants went through Taurus and what corresponding inner planet arrived with them. And you'll see that I think it's, you're going to have time cycles of like the 1500s, the 1700s, the 1800s. And and this is crazy. This is, again, proof is in the pudding, so to speak. You can go into all the art through history. And in those time periods, the 1500s going into the 16, the 17s and the 18s, you have these pictures that show all these orbs in the sky, right? Just thousands of orbs. Okay, and they're all over the sky in some of these pictures. Right here. Right here. This is a big orb, right? Made you in his image. It's a little orb. And when the pit now and people didn't sit there and see the orbs and draw pictures of them. Okay, this is just all symbology, time markers. It's, I can't even explain it. It's just, it is what it is, okay? So again, when we did the Biden-Trump thing, that's the figure 8 of the snake eating its tail, right? Okay, because, we went around double back, okay? On the bigger clock, like I said, since we're inside the Earth, each time we do a hop, each window, it's a 90-degree turn. So once we get the 4th turn, right, that'll be the complete 360, what they call a perfect circle. So we have that to look forward to, though it's not going to happen here. The bulk of the stuff that we're going to see here in our country, the U.S., is just what we're seeing right now. We're going to have our military off somewhere else, and we're going to have tornadoes and earthquakes. I talked about the earthquake that was in Louisiana. We still have the sun sitting out there pointing its big sunspot at us. So none of that's changed. It's still ongoing. The big significant thing is on the 8th day tomorrow, that'll be the Venus-Saturn conjunction. So I don't know if that becomes the flashpoint. Who knows? Like I said, there are some people say it's still going to go on in September into August. Me personally, like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't even look that far down the road. Now, I did look at the blood moon situation, and supposedly we don't have any more blood moons until, I want to say, December of 28, 27, I think is when I looked it up. So even though we've had these yearly and every other damn month blood moons, guess what? They're going to disappear. That should tell you something right there. And depending on who you're listening to about the sunspot and what the sun's doing, they're saying that this is the final act for that giant sunspot that's facing us. So it is what it is. So we got on the 8th day tomorrow, we got the Saturn-Venus conjunction. The other thing I wanted to mention too, real quick, in dealing with the planets, okay, so Mercury right now is in what they call retrograde. Again, that's inverted. It's not retroing, it's moving up, okay? That's all I'm going to say. When they say things are in retrograde, no, they're in ascension. We do these little... Not only do we move forward on the timeline a step and then like 2 steps backwards, so to speak, the retrogrades work the same way. We move up a little bit, and then we plateau out, and then we move up a little bit. We play Jacob's Ladder, right? Jacob's Ladder. That's how we're climbing out of the black hole, so to speak. But that was just my thought for the day. call me crazy, whatever. That's just how I see it. So if you want to look that up, just look at when the gas giants moved through Taurus. Look at all the artwork that has the orbs through all the years. That'll tell you the approximate windows in time right there. And when the timelines were moved and changed and added to and the whole 9 yards. All right. Well, I love everybody. You have a great, great weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Hopefully not. Hopefully we'll all be talking together on the other side, but we'll see. All right. Love you all. Bye-bye.